Her influence isn't from authority. Her influence is from judgment.
Devil Wears Prada is a coming-of-age story.
It's an iconic movie, and it's about sort of this outsider entering the world of fashion.
Being able to use your taste is very, very valuable.
The magic really is to know which rule to break.
The currency of the tastemaker, right, is to say, I'm going to be grounded for as long as humanly possible, but I'm going to show you what I think is next, and we all got to jump.
You can't influence somebody when they're just about to buy. The influence starts years later, so when they are ready to buy, they think in this direction. It's not the seat you're sitting in, it's the value you're bringing and the taste and the judgment that you have.
This is the best thing I've ever seen.
That. Let's talk about that.
Listen to this. Listen to this.
Memorable?
Well, then be less boring.
Boring?
Remarkable. Remarkable.
Remarkable.
Oh.
I'm Ian Faison, CEO of Caspian Studios. You're listening to Remarkable. This week, we're talking marketing lessons from The Devil Wears Prada.
She's on her way. Tell everyone.
She's not supposed to be here until 9.
Her driver just text messaged, and her facial is ruptured at this. God, these people. That I can't even talk about.
All right, everyone, gird your loins.
With the help of our special guest, Chief Marketing Officer at Observe.AI. Ritu, how are you?
I'm doing well, Ian. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to chat with you, catch up on old times, and chat about Devil Wears Prada and the cool stuff that you're doing at Observe. Why the heck did you pick The Devil Wears Prada to talk about today?
So I watched it 2 weeks ago with my daughter who's visiting from college. And let me tell you, the child's been here 5 weeks, hasn't loaded the dishwasher once. She thinks she's a in the house now. College-going kids, really, man, they come a lot. 5 weeks, then she's going to be here 3 months in summer. I'm not complaining, but the dishwasher somebody's got to load that thing. Anyways, so I watched it with her. And it's basically a workplace, right? It's a smart young woman. Yep. It takes a job at a fashion magazine. So it's a place with really high standards, unspoken rules, this super tough boss that explains nothing.
That blue represents millions of dollars and countless jobs. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when, in fact, you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room from a pile of stuff.
And the story really is about this woman, this young woman who's supposed to grow up faster than she expected. And she's put in these situations where she has to decide what parts of this growth that she is experiencing she wants to keep and what parts she wants to shed. And I picked it because I was telling Meredith earlier, I've seen it maybe 7 or 8 times now. And the first time I watched it, I saw this boss, Miranda, Meryl Streep's character, super intimidating, terrible leader. And then I watched it more recently with my older daughter, and then last week when I was preparing for this. And I swear to God, I emphasized with the weight of expectations on her. Mm-hmm. The responsibility she carries at work, the responsibility she carries at home. She has twins, she has a husband, she's married, has a family, and she has to deal with that. And these really high standards and what we refer to as taste, right? These really high standards she holds herself to and holds everybody else to. And she doesn't have time to explain them. I mean, to people that are watching, viewers, if you're in CMO shoes, head of shoes, you often don't have time to explain what these standards are and how to do them. You don't have time to kind of go in and say, I've had 20 years of experience in this. This is why I believe this is the right thing to do, or this is why I believe this thing is not good. So she is just saying, okay, go do this, pull this in, throw that out, make this work, but not really having that time to explain. And really, I empathize with her because I sometimes do the same thing. Maybe not as harshly, but we are not spending the time explaining to young people why we say what we do.
You mentioned something when we were talking off air that I want you to talk about today, which is about taste and about how when you were watching this, you thought about taste. Why is that?
So Miranda has good taste, or that's what she believes. And she uses her understanding of that standard that she holds herself and everybody else to, and the taste that she holds herself and everyone else to. She believes through her years of experience that that's the right thing. And that's the only standard everybody is going to aim for. Except it takes a very long time to understand what that looks like. Taste it's not something you can explain. You know, like you're walking around and you see a young woman or a young man dressed a certain way, and you're like, oh, this person has taste. And my daughter will look at the same person and go and look at them and go, boomer, right? It's very different. So it's inherent. It's understood by you, but you cannot describe it. And that's what human judgment, human standard really is as well, which is why AI can't replicate it, right? You can't describe it. You can't put it in words. So you can't teach somebody what that looks like. You have to learn.
I think that, and taste has gotten a lot of this word has, I think, come up a lot with the AI conversations, because sort of, to the future go the tastemakers and all this sort of stuff is, if, one person can now do the work of 10 people, the people with, in theory, the best taste are the ones who are the best at, XYZ. And I think it's important to unpack it as it relates to Devil Wears Prada, and just unpack it in general, which is, this is true. So like, it is magic, and it is like Steven Spielberg is better at making movies. Like, he's just better at it. Like, he is, for whatever reason, he's better at it. You sort of like go on and on down the line. Like, this thing like is real, and it has like huge, massive effects, right? It has network effects when you get it right. If you have good taste and other people like it, and people say things will like, well, yeah, but fashion or fads or whatever. Yeah, but it's like, that's the case. But at the end of the day, like, being able to use your taste and to figure out those things, like, is very, very valuable. And I think what you're touching on here is like, and what Devil Wears Prada is so core with, is this, I have tons of experience versus I'm like brand new. Yeah. And like, what does each bring to the role? And exactly. Someone who is young could have taste, but they also perhaps could, misinterpret that. Or vice versa. Someone who is, older could say that they have taste. And something like fashion, or what's popular in a video game, or, a movie, or a piece of content, or, whatever it is, that you can sort of blindly do it, or you could use data, or you could use, anecdotal references. But there is a point there, those type of people like do really matter. And I think that's like a core part of the movie.
They do. And it's interesting, right? I feel like I use the word gut feel quite a bit. And gut feel comes from years and years and years of experience, which means I have seen the lows and the highs, and seen the bads and the goods. And now I can say, okay, my gut says this is right. And it's not really my gut. It is all the experience that I'm bringing with me. Taste is the same way. You've seen the goods and the bads. You've seen what worked, what doesn't. And now you can give it this word, taste or gut, and say, this is what I think, or this is what I believe. And what people misinterpret it as, well, she just looked at it and said something. Well, no, I looked at it, and then I brought upon my years and years and years of experience, and then I told you I didn't like it. There's the inherent, the feeling that you get, and then there's the feeling and the years of experience together that then gives it that weight that people look at. So Miranda's the same way in the movie, where when she says something, people listen, because she's been on those shows a long time, seen the goods and the bads.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing, right? Because taste isn't saying that you can see the future. It's not saying, like, if you could predict every trend. She's not saying she can predict every trend, right? She's not saying like she knows what's coming next. She can't see around corners, but it is like a little bit of seeing around corners. It is like, you can see around corners 1% better than other people, which compounds a lot over time.
It is. And it's sort of like, you've been in so many of those situations that, like, you've seen the movie before, right? That's what the word we like to use, where you've been in so many of those situations. You may not exactly know, but you kind of instinctively will say, hey, it's going to be in this ballpark, versus somebody that hasn't at all, may not be able to, again, may have to work extra hard to get that. That's all. And there are certain like fundamentals that don't go away. For example, buyers are going to be buyers. My buyer persona, while tweaks and changes, people still want to buy the right thing. People still want to be successful. People still want to look at you as partners. There are certain things in industry that does not change. And as long as you're true to that, and you're sort of thinking about the person in front of you, you're thinking about their needs, requirements, their wants, their goals, their visions, you're going to get to the right place.
Yeah, so I'm curious, as someone who definitely fancies themselves at least to have taste in content, hence why we do the show. One of the things I often struggle with is when I like pitch something or have an idea for something, and I sort of already, like, I can see the end thing. Like when we pitched Murder in HR, I saw the end result before like we did any of the other stuff. It's sort of like immaterial who the characters were and who the actors were and who the, like, how we did our go-to-market plan and like all that stuff. Like we'll figure all that stuff out. But like what I can see is that the overlay of a murder mystery set in an HR department of a, fictional tech company that's a front for assassins is going to be a hit. And I felt really strongly about that, but it's hard to get, other people to sort of like see your vision for that and to say like, no, like, trust me, this is something that's going to make sense, because things, people who do have taste, often it's something that is more simple or more elegant or more understated or unobvious. Because if it was obvious, like, other people would be doing it. So just curious, like, how do you think about when you're pitching either senior leaders as a CMO or when people are pitching you?
So let me back up. So the situation that you referenced, Murder in HR, it succeeded not just because it was really well made and there's taste. It's because you reached the right audience. It was the right point in time where you understood that this is what people are looking for. Folks are bored at this kind of content and they want this kind of content. It's the people that you bought on your show or folks that watch your podcast and people you're able to reach would enjoy that content. So it's a trifecta. Really well made, the right audience, and the right point in time. So it is a mix of all three. If you did this, I'm going to make this up, 4 years later, where AI is, kind of creating this content constantly, may not be that successful. So as a CMO or, as an individual that that's trying to take something forward to a particular set of people, you have to get all three right, or at least two right. It has to be the right place, right time. You have to have a way to take that content and reach the right audience. Like if you send that to CFOs, it would be a disaster.
Oh boy, and don't I know it?
That's right. It's like, how much does this thing cost?
Right.
So you have to have those things in play for it to be successful. So when I'm pitching, and I'm usually pitching to my exec team, my peers, and I'm coming in and saying, okay, this is the right point in time in the market. This is why. Here's something that we've done in the past with a soft launch or something we've seen that shows us signals that something like this would be useful. And this is, of course, like a bigger deal. I'll give you an example. We launched Voice.AI agents in January last year. And before that, the month before, we did a soft launch, really small to our existing customers. And I looked at it. It was very little data. And I looked at it and I said, we got to do a big launch and we got to do it in February. I can't wait. This is amazing. And folks are like, are you kidding? We have 2 months. We don't have a plan. We haven't started. And I was like, no, we're going to do it. Here's why. Here's who we're going to target. We have a way to reach these people because we have existing clients and business, and we've spent some time nurturing these accounts. And here's the format I'm going to do it in. So instead of making it smaller, we went all out. We booked a studio. In fact, I called upon every favor I had, my old CMOs, people that had done this thing at this scale before, and we got it done. Lots of kicking and screaming. People didn't understand it at all. Big success because we saw it, right? We see it. You know it's going to happen. In 2 months, full scale, studio delivered, fluent customers, fluent investors, made it happen. Big success. We got the pipeline we wanted, we got the visibility we wanted, and we took it from there. But it's one of those things where right time, right market, right piece of content, and a way to get to your buyer person.
Yeah, you brought up something that I think is kind of interesting about that the tastemaker, and in this case, the way that I say tastemaker, meaning someone who has a sensibility about the world that, from a content perspective, thinks that they can make something that people will enjoy. That person, they live in the present, they're like grounded in the present, but like a little bit looking to the future. So it's like they're not 40 steps ahead of everybody else, because they're sort of like too far. So they're sort of like grounded in the present, but they still are able to say, hey, everybody really likes whatever, fancy designer bags, but I think backpacks are going to, make a comeback or something like that or whatever. Right. So it's like, you have to sort of be grounded in reality, but you have to say there is like an amount of risk taking that you have to say, like, we have to burn the boats a little bit. Right. Like you can't keep that other foot, on the ground once you finally make the jump. And I think that's what like a lot of people, I think the mistake that they make is they just try to like half do something.
Peanut butter. Exactly.
It's like, if you're crossing a stream and there's that moment where you're sort of like rocking back and forth and you're like, if I half jump this, my foot's going in the stream. I'm getting wet. And it's that final moment where you're like, you just got to put all your body into it to get across the stream. Yeah. And it feels awkward and it feels, scary. It's like, that is what the like currency of the tastemaker, right? Is to be able to overcome that and to say, I'm going to be grounded for as long as humanly possible, but I'm going to show you what is next, what I think is next. And like, we all got to jump. And it might feel a little scary. And if it doesn't work, then like it doesn't work. But up until this point, my track record has been good enough that I think, deserves the jump.
I believe you. And I think it takes the right person to break the rules. So a lot of CMOs, a lot of marketers, a lot of CFOs will run companies with metrics.
Yeah.
Inside Partners has some metrics. Some other folks have metrics. The magic really is to know which rule to break. You can't break them all at the same time. You break the one, and then you run with it. But you have to go all in. So exec team has to be in. Your team has to be bought in. Whether that's bought in, hey, I trust you, or I trust the system, or I trust the particular project, whatever it is, they have to be bought in. You break the rule, and then run with it. Just following the metrics, blind. These averages, right? They'll make you a perfectly average individual or a perfectly average company. That's breaking that one rule, two rules. That helps you skyrocket.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part with like, the downside of data, right? Like, for example, when we did Murder in HR, we were like, we don't have perfect data on this, but we were like, there's a large percentage of women that are in HR. There's a large percentage of women that like murder mystery podcasts. And yeah, this is fiction. So it's a little bit of a jump from like the true crime stuff, but it has a really popular female lead and it's extremely, it's very high concept. People will get it. They'll see it. They'll understand it. And maybe they've never, and one of the things that we got pushed back on was like, well, how many people like fiction podcasts? And I'm like, well, we're going to bring a lot of people who've never listened to a fiction podcast ever before, but they're going to see this and they're going to check it out and be like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And that's exactly what happened. There's like tons of people who are like, oh, I've actually never listened to anything like this before, but this was really cool. And probably because nothing had ever been made like that for them, right? But all of a sudden now this thing was for them, and then they checked it out. And it felt similar enough to something that they already liked. Like, oh, this feels like Only Murders in the Building, or this feels like whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of, like I said, that keeping yourself grounded a little bit. But if you were to just look at the data to just say, oh, we should just make, for example, I don't know how you do this, another true crime podcast. Like, well, then we're going to be one of 1,000 true crime podcasts are out there. And that probably will work. But why don't we do something that's a little bit different than what other people are doing and say, you know, let's jump at the shorter end of the stream, because if we wait, the stream gets bigger, and then it's going to be a lot more expensive to cross it.
No, yeah, that's what it is. And that's what's going on with AI today as well. It's just really expensive to cross that stream if you haven't done it already.
Yeah. Okay, Meredith. What the heck is Devil Wears Prada?
Oh my God. Meredith, are you going to tell
That
us?
honestly took me forever to come up with like what the small sentence of like what it's about, because there's so much going on here. So it's an iconic movie, and it's about sort of this outsider entering the world of fashion. And I think a lot of tension comes from just that. So we see this sweet, wholesome, kind of frumpy journalist graduate, Andy Sachs, played by Anne Hathaway.
My name is Andy Sachs. I recently graduated from Northwestern University.
And what are you doing here?
Well, I think I could do a good job as your assistant.
She gets a job at Runway Magazine, and her boss, Miranda Priestley, who's played iconically by Meryl Streep, not to use that word again, she is an icon. She's demanding and harsh, and some would call her cruel, and she's seemingly impossible to please.
Miranda, about last night,
I need the new Harry Potter book for the twins.
Okay, I'll go down to Barnes & Noble right now.
Did you fall down and smack your little head on the pavement?
Not that I can recall.
We have all the published Harry Potter books. Twins want to know what happens next.
You want the unpublished manuscript?
Well, we know everyone in publishing. It shouldn't be a problem, should it? And you can do anything, right?
Then Andy basically realizes she has to kind of drink the Kool-Aid or quit. And so we see this whole arc of her story. It's loosely based on what it was actually like to work for Anna Wintour, who is the former Vogue editor-in-chief. It's based on a book by Lauren Weisberg, who wrote the book based on her 10 months as Wintour's assistant after graduating from college. So she's sort of put in a very similar place as Andy Sachs. And I think it's important to note that this is loosely based on what that was like, because I think she would have really stirred the pot in the fashion world had she said this is factual. And so Weisberger had said, a lot of the anecdotes, demands, and craziness are products of my imagination, stories I created at 4 a.m. while chugging coffee and fighting sleep deprivation. But there's reality there too. Some of the stories aren't so far away from the tasks either I or my friends in various industries went through our first few years out of college. And so I think there is kind of like a universal experience of like going to your first real job and sort of being put to the test. And so I think that really speaks to a lot of people too. But after Weisberg left Vogue, she started writing about this. She started taking night classes in writing, because that's really what she wanted to do. And one of her professors gave these stories to a literary agent. And the agent took a look at these and she was like, if she wants to sell this book, I can sell it this afternoon. She was like, this is going to sell. It's very appealing. And so that was immediately obvious. She's gone on to write sequels and books following. I think she has like 7 books out. But one thing for me was like, this book doesn't actually paint like Anna Wintour in a necessarily positive light. So I was wondering like what she thought of it. And apparently like for a while, she was pretty like distancing herself from it, didn't really want to answer any questions about it. In the end, she said it was highly enjoyable, at least the movie. She watched the movie. And it's funny, she went to the premiere and she was actually wearing Prada, which is like... She said she didn't even know what the movie was about. And I think that's really ironic because it's like, it's kind of about you. But she ended up calling it a fair shot. Like she thought it showed the intensity of the fashion industry. And she had said that like she actually liked how it showed all of the hard work that went into making the magazine.
You think this is just a magazine? This is not just a magazine. This is a shining beacon of hope for Oh, I don't know. Let's say a young boy growing up in Rhode Island with 6 brothers, pretending to go to soccer practice when he was really going to sewing class and reading Runway under the covers at night with a flashlight. You have no idea how many legends have walked these halls. And what's worse, you don't care. Because this place, where so many people would die to work, you only deign to work. And you want to know why she doesn't kiss you on the forehead and give you a gold star on your homework at the end of the day. Wake up, sweetheart.
But on the other hand, Ritu, we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, that when we think about Miranda Priestley, I think if you look at it from Andy Sachs' point of view, she seems just almost like abusive. But then as I've gotten older and as I've taken on more responsibility, it's like, well, Miranda Priestley's actually just doing what she needs to do to get the job done. And sometimes that can sound a little bit cruel. I mean, I would say she kind of goes to an extreme, but there's a lot of reality to that and to her role and just trying to get her job done. But backing up, like, this movie came out in 2006, which Ritu, we were talking about, it's like 20 years ago at this point. It's crazy. I can't believe it, especially because it still feels very fresh. And I think it's still very popular for a number of reasons. It has an amazing cast, and that's obviously part of it. There are some very quotable moments, like the cerulean blue scene. And you also get like this inside view on the fashion industry. But I think one of the real reasons why it endures is they show these characters as complex people. Like there's a scene in a hotel room where Miranda is very vulnerable and raw, and she looks like she's been crying and she doesn't have any makeup on. And she basically tells Andy that she's getting a divorce. And that was actually like a scene that Meryl Streep suggested and sort of vied for, because otherwise Miranda's character would have seemed kind of flat. And so she wanted to show her as a multifaceted person. And then we have Nigel sort of like talking about growing up and reading Runway under the covers. And so you sort of feel for him and his whole trajectory. And so I think they all have their character arcs. And I think that is another reason why I think it speaks to a lot of people. One thing I did want to mention before I wrap up my part is there's a sequel, Devil Wears Prada 2, and it's scheduled to come out later this year in May. So I'm super excited for that. But looking...
Got it. I can't wait. So
I can't wait. And like looking back, Ritu, I'm wondering if you have an opinion about like why this endures, like why this still feels like pretty evergreen. Because I think that it'll always be kind of one of my favorite movies, and I feel like you feel the same way.
It's, I think anytime you watch it, you learn something new, honestly, because you're looking at it from completely different eyes. And Miranda's character will keep changing. And it went from completely negative when I was in my 20s to now really positive. And
she had a few good points.
Anne Hathaway's character, backwards. Because here Anne Hathaway comes in and she's almost against the system. She's like, I'm working here, but I don't believe in the mission.
Yep.
Like, how do you do that? I would, let's just say, manage somebody out. It weren't. You have to believe in the mission.
For sure.
And the only time when she starts to become successful is when she starts to believe in the mission. She becomes part of the system. And then at that point, you start to grow really fast because you now internalize and say, hey, I'm part of this company and I'm part of the fashion industry. That's when you can grow. And when in that growth phase, there's many different things that you want to keep and some things you want to shed later. And that's okay. That's your choice. But you have to sort of own it first. You have to own the system. You have to become part of it. Now, a lot of people say, well, sometimes it's not everybody has to drink the Kool-Aid. But I think for me, it's sort of like, it's not drinking the Kool-Aid. It is owning the system, living it, and then saying, okay, this may not work. That may not work, but you have to live it first. You can't just come in as an outsider and say, hey, this is bullshit, which we see very often in the corporate.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
So I have sort of the play the devil's advocate on it for a second, which is it's kind of not like that good of a story. Like
interesting.
It's like,
okay, go on.
Okay, so it's perfect movie. But I'm saying like, what is the story? As the story is a young person goes to her first job and her boss is mean?
That is it. So a young person goes to her first job. She's not bought in. This is just a job. She wants to be a writer. This is basically, she's not bought in. And her boss is somebody that has grown up in the fashion industry. Like her belief that if you put on a sweater, that decision of you putting on a sweater was made 20 years ago between designers and fashion people and consultants, so that you put on that sweater today because you weren't feeling like it. So that's where she comes from. She understands the nuance and the history of everything. Now, these two people come together. And the boss, Miranda, Meryl Streep's character, realizes this about Anne Hathaway's character. And as a result, it's harder on her than anybody else.
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway also doesn't look the part, doesn't help. And then suddenly, one fine day, something flips in her head. She has a conversation with one of the other people on set in the movie. Something flips on her head, and she starts to become one of the people around her. But she doesn't lose her edge. She doesn't lose what makes her her, what makes her Andy. But she starts to dress the part, she starts to look the part, and she suddenly starts to become part of the system. And the growth story is, as she grows through the ranks, there's certain things that she does where she takes something away from a friend, or takes there's an event the friend wanted to go to and she goes to it anyway. So there were certain things that she does that she wasn't completely happy about. And she chooses towards the end of the movie to shed those parts, but keeps the others.
Yep.
It's almost like it's a growth story of this woman that comes in. There's also like so much marketing, the brand influence about it. There's human judgment, there's standards, expectations. All of that makes sense now. It didn't make sense when I first watched it.
Totally. And that's sort of my point is like, I think as marketers, like we complain about, I say this with love, we complain about a story being boring all the time. Like, oh, well, like I'm marketing to dentists, so what could I talk about? And it's like, at the end of the day, like Devil Wears Prada is a coming of age story, and it's two, sort of ideologically different people that are forced to be together. And, they both sort of learn a little bit in the end of it, right? It's like, so it ends up being a great story, but it's not a like incredibly high concept film, right? I mean, it's like, the frumpy person goes to work in the high fashion place. Like it is pretty simple, but it's not something that's like, it's not Back to the Future. You know what I mean? It's not, right? And so, and I think that's like a great lesson is like this gal, in real life spent 10 months of her life working for someone and wrote a really great story. Like if you to take that same thing, I'm like, if you're a marketing person and you embedded with one of your customers for 10 months, imagine what story you could write about their life or about the people around them or all of those things. And so, and then if you execute it extremely well, very well acted, very well written, visually appealing, it's in a cool industry, fashion, which helps.
Mm.
And everybody sort of like fashion is very, everybody has a vote in fashion, right? Because we all are like, participants in fashion, right? And all of a sudden now you get this like amazing movie. And I say that to say like, it succeeds despite the sort of simplicity of the setup, but it's like, it still has a propulsive narrative. Like, is she going to quit or not? From the first second of the movie, you're like, is she going to quit or not? Right? So you want to stay till the end. So like, even though it's this super, super simple story of someone getting their first job, it ends up being something you want to stay till the end. You have a great time the entire time. Evil characters, are the best. That's why they say the devil has the best lines. That's why when you take like one of the best actors in the history of the world in Meryl Streep and get her to play someone who's quote unquote the devil, why she's so good in it, because she has so many great lines. So like, this is storytelling 101, right? Take the innocent, doe-eyed person and put them against someone who's absolutely ruthless, and make them not be able to quit. And like, not to keep bringing up murder in HR, that's literally the same thing we did with that story.
Mm-hmm.
We brought someone who's a like habitual job quitter and put her in a job that she couldn't quit. And in that case is because her boss, and they were all assassins, but like, and she had to solve a murder to get out of it. But like, same sort of idea, right? Coming to a job, brand new job, your boss is very difficult to deal with, and you have to navigate all these. And that's every single person on earth has gone through that. So it's super relatable.
Empathy is the big one, right? Hey, can you relate to this? Everybody has, most people have a job, and most people have had some version of Miranda as a boss at some point in their lives.
Yeah. But I think if you pitch this, like, I know that the person, the, you know, literary agent's like, oh, when I read this, I knew it would be a hit. But like, I think if you pitched this exact storyline today to someone, they'd be like, so what?
Exactly.
You know, like if you used like Nike instead of Runway magazine, you know what I mean? You're like, it's an up and coming person. Or like, you know, it would actually be a good, okay, maybe this is funny, but it would be like a brand new employee at like Barstool Sports. And you have to like go up against like Dave Portnoy, you know, like that actually does sound great. So
I need to do that next.
Yeah, maybe that is a great story. But the reason what makes it great is because of the quote unquote villain. And it's like, is this person a villain or not? Like, so anyways, I think it's extremely well done.
Yes.
And that's such a great lesson. It's like, if you make the characters three-dimensional, if you put them in realistic scenarios, if you can see yourself in the story, if you know, like zoom in on that person. We've all had a bad boss. Bam, already. I get it. Oh, my boss used to do that. Oh, I get it. Like, it's super relatable. And because of that relatability, it works really well.
It does. You're right.
Other marketing takeaways from The Devil Wears Prada?
There were a couple. I think, you know, we talked about this earlier. Taste, human judgment. That's a real skill. So if you look at her, she's not coming from, like, her influence isn't from authority. Her influence is from judgment. Like, she's judging you all the time. That's what people are scared of. It's not because she sits in that seat. It's because of that persona and the constant judgments. Now, you can flip judgment and say she just has really good taste. She knows exactly what she wants, and she's not afraid to express that opinion. And that makes her, you know, a really high-functioning exec. But her influence doesn't come. So it's like, it's not the seat you're sitting in. It's the value you're bringing and the taste and the judgment that you have. The second one, and Meredith really just talked about this, it's the sweater scene. It's very interesting. So Anne Hathaway's character comes in wearing a blue sweater, and she thinks she just threw it on. And Miranda goes into a 5-minute tirade talking about all the things that happened that both created the sweater and influenced Anne Hathaway's decision to wear that sweater that day. Lots of decisions between designers and magazines and other things that influenced that decision. So it's almost like you can't influence somebody when they're just about to buy. The influence starts years later. So when they are ready to buy, they think in this direction. And when they think in this direction, the only obvious option should be your brand. That's ideal. But it's almost like you're starting to influence much, much earlier than, maybe not years like fashion, but definitely 6 to 12 months before they're in market. So the signals you're looking for, all of those are like pre-buying signals, not buying signals, because by then it's too late. So for me, that was the bigger one, like that brand influence, that unmeasurable thing that's out there that we're all trying to, let's figure out how to measure brand. Is it brand or demand? And how do we bring it all together? That one scene really described it. It was very cool.
I think it also just like really encapsulates something for me as when you're, again, like pitching projects that, you know, everybody's looking to say no, sort of like, so everybody is sort of like in this thing to be a little bit closed-minded, right? Because they get pitched a million things. And when I was younger in my career, AKA young people, tend to think they know a lot, even though perhaps they don't always know a lot. And she's the perfect example of that, of like, I just threw on this sweater and it's like, yeah, but you have no idea all the things that, went into this. And there's a super quick story that I'll tell you. There's on this podcast that we did years ago about procurement that there was a fashion company that has these type of bags, and they were looking to make a change to the bags. And so it went to the board, and the board was like, we can't change the bags. The bag is the most important thing of our entire brand. It is our brand. People see that red bag, and that's us. Like, the bag is so important. We can never, like, we can't change that. What are you talking about? And the procurement guy was like, who makes them? What country are they made in? How many suppliers do we have? What fabrics are used in it? How much do they cost? And it's like, no one on the board knew any of those answers. He's like, so the most important thing to our entire brand, the number one marketing thing we have, the most iconic piece about us, not a single person here knows anything about these. And I was like, we have one supplier, it's in one country, and if anything happens to them, we wouldn't have any bags. and like, I think that's like so often how it feels as a marketer, where you're Meryl Streep and the person's like, yeah, no, I closed this deal. Like, I closed this deal last week because I cold emailed them. And you're like, no, that person, has listened to 7 of our podcasts and went to an event of ours 4 years ago. And that person like has come to our website and read blog posts like on and off for the last 5 years. They're in newsletter, like, it's like we've had 100 touches on this person before that cold email. It doesn't make the cold email not valuable.
Yes.
But it wasn't cold. This was in work. This was in progress far before, you sent the email.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. What we did at Observe is, so we run 2 different streams. Right? There's the mid-market stream that goes through your usual MQL to SQL. It's one person that goes down the funnel. But because enterprise was behaving so differently, and for exactly that reason that you recommended, like, I emailed this, but this other person came to the website, and that person was, an SDR called the other person, we changed it out to no credit to anybody. Everybody gets credit when something closes, when something comes through. We create a buyer committee instead of moving on one person. So we don't move it from SQL, from marketing qualified to sales qualified, till we have 5 people in funnel. And I don't care who brings those 5 people. So between SDR, sales, and marketing, we decide these are the 5 people we're going after. SDR, you're going to catch them at events. AE, you're going to try and call them. Marketing, we're going to use email and paid ads. So between that, if we can get 5 people, only then it moves forward, which means you don't get a SE till it moves forward. Marketing doesn't get credit till it moves forward. But we completely flipped it only for our enterprise motion. Mid-market doesn't work like that, but only for our enterprise motion to get rid of that. The fighting completely stopped because everybody's focused on those 5 people.
That's
and then
great.
It just works. Mid-market, you can't do that. There's usually one buyer and it's harder, but we completely flipped it.
That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah. Much, much better.
All right. Anything else on Devil Wears Prada?
I think that's it. We talked a lot about it. I really like the movie. I can't wait for the sequel for sure.
I know. I was going to start this out. It was going to be like, what would Miranda think about, what would she do in the age of AI? I'm like, we don't even have to, even have to wait. We will find out soon enough.
We will, goodness. And I think the whole AI thing, I feel like I've done so many podcasts just on that.
Yeah.
Is we've spent so much time creating hype that nobody trusts vendors anymore. I think that's the biggest one. We don't lead with honesty, and we've lost the biggest thing, which is buyer trust.
Yeah.
So the brands that are able to build buyer trust, and trust could be anything. It could be because your CEO is super well respected. It could be because you have a board that reached out and you connected. Or it could be that your marketing is super honest and talks about the pitfalls and everything. It could be anything. Pick one thing, and that builds the trust. You have to find that one anchor of trust, and you have to completely go through it. If that trust is your CEO, just keep having your CEO make calls. If that trust is marketing content that's completely honest, just really focus on that. But we've lost and eroded buyer trust last year by talking about how these things are quick and fast and implement in 5 minutes. That we have to be able to flip the switch now. We have to really create content that talks about pitfalls, talks about learning, is more honest than we were last year.
No, and I think like I was sort of on one of our recent episodes for Remarkable, we were talking about how AI from a content perspective, like smooths out the wrinkles, and then without the wrinkles, like all the stuff isn't memorable or like digestible, or like you lose all of the context for the thing in general. And so it's this like, if it's editing something for you, right? What I always find myself doing is like I'll write a version or whatever, and then it'll edit it. And I'm like, no, you took out all the parts that are like me and my personality and like all the, weird little things. And they want to smooth all that stuff over. And whereas what it's way better at is like cutting something, like leaving the sections that are valuable and like cut the fluff or things like that. But I think that's sort of a microcosm for sort of all of it right now, which is we need to be able to shine a light on like things, warts and all. And it's the same thing, I mean, we've had this problem. It's not just an AI problem. It's like your customer stories, not yours are great, but people's customer stories just being like so obviously manufactured, it's like, well, nobody trusts that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you have to say, and that's what we've started to shift to now as well, where we talking about, hey, this wasn't easy. It did take us 3 months. It wasn't simple, but look where we are. And then here's the plan for the next year. You have to be able to say that. And what really helps is connecting people. Folks that have gone through the journey, have them talk to your prospects, because they'll give them the real deal. They'll also tell them it works in the end, but they'll tell them, hey, it takes time. This is what you asked the vendor. It really, really, that's the references are the biggest one. And we luckily have a bunch that are willing to talk, and connecting those people earlier in the cycle, not after, right when you're going to get ready to sign.
It's so cool to see what y'all have been able to do. Voice is, on your website says voice is what sets us apart. And I could not agree more. It's such a cool technological advancement to be able to have this. And we're super excited to follow along. Last question for you. How should CMOs be thinking about, their content strategy in 2026?
Honesty, man. So don't chase the noise. Don't, at this point, don't worry about hype. Don't talk about how shiny everything is. Be very, very intentional about talking about what it can and cannot do today, where you can get through it tomorrow, and really focus on where people are. Not everybody wants to automate their entire contact center with voice AI. People sometimes want to start small. Some people want to start larger. So focus your content on where people are in the journey, how much AI they have, how comfortable they are with the use of AI, and then focus it on that. Focus on change management. Focus on the real problems people face as they get AI into the system. For us, we were lucky enough to start our voice AI customer journeys with healthcare, which is usually the latest adopter. Mm-hmm. So really talked a lot about how strong our technology was when you had healthcare clients come in and adopt that. It was tremendous. And of course, it was a lot of work trying to get them off the ground and make sure nothing broke. But the interest and basically the movement that we've seen going from one call flow to the next, quickly month over month has been a big, big deal. So we're excited about that. We're excited about the fact that customers are able to grow with us. And again, we're right there with them. They are going to run into issues. There are going to be problems. We're right there with them to solve it because we haven't seen everything yet. As customers want to use this in bigger, better ways, they're much further ahead than vendors are.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I saw on the site 90% first call resolution. That's crazy.
It is mad. And, we, as vendors, we constantly call the number to make sure things are fine. It's amazing how this mix of, just completely non-deterministic conversation between you and the agent and some deterministic things as you want to authenticate a user or if you want to do something that's that's necessary, we have a mix of deterministic and non-deterministic automation, which really, really changes the game.
Amazing. Ritu, thanks so much. We love chatting with you, and we'll chat soon. Any final thoughts? Anything to plug?
No, just, let's get started on Voice.AI. That's the best I can say.
Amazing. Everybody go check out Observe.AI. Thanks, Ritu.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.